Okay, so we have the next in our series of the Manchester Grammar papers. It's Arithmetic Section A that we're still doing, and it's the 2018 paper today. So we're going to spend longer than 30 minutes on it, but in the exam you would have just 30 minutes to do these 20 questions. Right, as usual, why don't you go through the first 3 questions nice and quickly for me, work those out. I'm going to be working them out on the board, I think, while you're working them out, just in case anyone would like some guidance on them. So 3, 7, 4, plus 5, 2, 8. Hopefully that's nice and easy. Okay, 44.8 divided by 0.7. Can someone take a second to tell me in chat how we work that out? What do you think? Okay, how do we work out the second question? Yeah, good. So we would multiply both numbers by 10 in order to get rid of the decimal point. I'm sure I rubbed that addition out, but here it is again. So you're going to do 448 divided by 7. And remember, you don't need to do anything to your answer at the end of that. You'll just have your answer from doing this division. So 7 is into 4, 0, carry the 4, 7's into 44, 6, remainder 2, 7's into 28, go 4 times. So 64. Okay. And then remember, with a number sequence, I always recommend writing what the difference is between each number. So we've got plus 1.1, plus 1.3, plus 1.5, having a bit of trouble fitting them in. And what are we adding each time? From 1.1 to 1.3 to 1.5, what are we adding? 0.2, thank you. So if I add 0.2 to 1.5, I get plus 1.7. So you need to do 6.2 plus 1.7. Remember, when you're adding decimal numbers, you have to line up the decimal points in both. Someone's just said, remember the decimal in this question. Nope, we don't need to remember the decimal. If you're not sure whether to include the decimal or not, think about a question with easier numbers. I'll just go off quickly and show you. So if I had 10 divided by 2, that would be 5. If I times them both by 10, I get 100 divided by 20, and that's still 5. The answer here doesn't become 50 or anything like that, just because I multiplied by 10. So we don't get 6.4 for this, we get 64, just what we wrote here. Okay, and then number 3, 6.2 plus 1.7 is 7.9. All right, now let's do some subtraction, if everyone's with me. So here, you've got to be careful because of the way they phrase this question. So it says subtract 1 3/4 from 3 3/8. Now they've switched around the numbers here. So when you do the subtraction, you're actually doing 3 3/8 minus 1 3/4. So don't put the wrong number first. I'll do it on a fresh page. So I've got lots of room. So 1 3/4 minus 3 3/8. Remember, the first thing we need to do is convert that into, convert both of those fractions into improper fractions. Have it, think and let me know what each of those would be as an improper fraction. If you're working at home, you can just write it down. Can someone tell me what they'd be as improper fractions? Yeah, so we've got 7/4, we do 1 times 4 plus 3, 7/4, and then we do 3 times 8 is 24, plus 3 is 27. So 27/8 is what we have. Oh, shoot, I did exactly what I told you not to do. and I've switched these around. You see, you have to be careful. So let's write that again. And let's delete this. So you all make silly mistakes, so it's good to check you're working. So 3 3/8. Someone's asked me about that. I'm not sure what you mean. Hopefully I wrote the right numbers before, but when you convert both of those into improper fractions, you get the below. I'll write out the question again here. Okay. So we need to convert this into a fraction with the same denominator as the other one. So we can times the numerator and the denominator by 2, and then this will be in eighths. So we'll have just 27/8 as before, and then 14/8 here. So 27/8 minus 14/8 gives us 13/8, which equals 1 5/8. And there's our final answer, 1 5/8. This question, by the way, it doesn't specify whether you should write your answer as an improper fraction or a mixed number. Usually in that case, they'll give you a mark for either. However, because the question wrote the fractions as mixed numbers, I would write the answer as a mixed number as well. Okay. 2.35 times 3,000. I'll give you a second just to work this out on paper, but try and think of the quick way of doing it. What I don't recommend you do is this calculation. There's a quicker way. Okay, starting to get some answers through. I'll just work it out on here. So what I would recommend is ignoring the decimal point at first and just doing 235 times 3,000. I can do that by doing 235 times 3. And then I'll add the 3 zeros at the end. Now in the original question, I had 2.35. So I had 2 numbers behind the decimal point. So I put 2 numbers behind the decimal point here, and I get 7,050. So there's our final answer, 7,050. Good, so I can see several of you got that, well done. Okay, 40%, what is 40% of 650 grams? Now be careful with percentages questions. This one's a straightforward one, just find 40% of 650 grams, but be careful because sometimes they say increase it by 40%, decrease it by 40%, and then you've got some operations to do. So 40% of 650. I'll do it on the board as well, but you can work it out on your own, or you can watch the board if you need some help. So 100% is 650. 10% is 65, because we divide by 10 there. And then to get to 40%, I need to multiply by 4. And 65 multiplied by 4 is 260. So I just found 10% by dividing by 10, and then times that by 4. All right, if you've done that, you can have a look at the next one. Express 0.85 as a fraction in its simplest form. Remember, the denominator is always whichever column this goes up to. It goes up to the hundredths, so 100 is our denominator. So 85 over 100. And what do we get when we simplify 85 over 100? Yeah, good. We get, we'll divide by 5, both the numerator and the denominator. 85 divided by 5 is 17. 100 divided by 5 is 20. So that fraction in its simplest form, good, got some right answers here, is 17 over 20. Well done. Okay, add together 6.37, 10.04, and 203. Remember, when you add decimal numbers, you need to line up the decimal points. I'll just write that out. So 203 doesn't have a decimal point in it. If a number doesn't have a decimal point, there's an invisible decimal point at the end. So you can put a 0.0 in there without changing the number if you just want to have something in that column. So you've got 10.4 and then 6.37. So your numbers should be lined up like so, and then you will do your addition. Now, you might want to just put some zeros in here as placeholders. Okay, good. I'll give you a couple more seconds to work out that answer, but I've had some correct answers through already. Just have a look. If your number's not in the hundreds, then have a look at your decimal placement there, because that's probably where you're going wrong. If you wanted to estimate this as well, have a think about what you would get if you just added the whole numbers. So 203 plus 10 is 213, plus 6 is 219. So if your answer is not around 219, then you know you've done something funny with your decimals. Okay, so our final answer there should be, oh, sorry, I mixed up the numbers. I am getting in the right jumble today. 04, I wrote 40, it should have been 04. Yes, thank you, Ondina. So 04, sorry, I think a couple of you copied that down from the board and therefore got it wrong because of that, but as long as you know where the decimal placement goes, then we're fine. Sorry, this is what happens when you do it live. Things that I did on my own, I'm not doing in this class. So we should have 219.41. Now, just quickly about the last question. Someone has asked me if we could have 8.5 over 10. When you simplify a fraction, you can't have any decimal numbers in it. So you can only go as far as you can go with the whole numbers. So 17 over 20 is the fraction in its simplest form. You wouldn't get the mark if you did 8.5 over 10. All right, number 9, and I will try to write down the right numbers this time. So, which of these numbers, when multiplied by itself, gives an answer which ends in a 4? So, if I do not want to sit here and write out 26 times 26 and work it out, and 44 times 44 and so on, what can I do to figure out which numbers would end in a 4 when multiplied by themselves? What can I do as a shortcut for this? Yeah, good. So you just multiply the last number by itself. Because if you were setting this out as multiplication, you'd do 6 times 6, you'd get 36. And then on the next row, you'd add a 0. So when you add them up, you would have a number ending in 6. So all we need to do is multiply each of the last numbers by itself. So 6 times 6, we get 36. Doesn't end in a 0. Oh, sorry, doesn't end in a 4. 4 times 4, we get 16. Doesn't end in a 4. 8 times 8, we get 64. That does end in a 4. And let's just check the last one just in case, so we can make sure we can rule that out. 3 times 3 is 9. Doesn't end in a 4. So the answer to this will be 58. 58, when multiplied by itself, ends in a 4. Okay. What is the least number which can be added to 278 to make a number which is exactly divisible by 13? What strategy can we use here? I don't want you to write out the multiples of 13. What is the least number which can be added to 278 to make a number which is exactly divisible by 13? Okay, I'm not getting the right strategy. So someone said trial and error. We don't have to use trial and error with this. We have a strategy that we can use that will work every time. So what I would like you to do is work out 278 divided by 13. However, I want you to write your remainder as a whole number. So these days you usually write the remainders as decimals, but just write R and then your remainder. So work that out for me and let me know what you get in the chat. Yep, that's right, Christian. So you should have that when you do the division. So you've got 21 lots of 13 and 5 left over. So now the question is, what would you have to add to 5 to have one lot of 13? And the answer to that would be 8. So if you have 5 and you add 8, that will make 13, and that will be another lot of 13 for your division. So what number must be added to this? The answer is 8. When I put this up on YouTube, I'll put a bonus question underneath that's similar to this, so you can get a bit more practice with this at home. So just to go through again, so you divide it by the number they want you to divide by, see what the remainder is, and then see what you would have to add to that remainder to get the number you were dividing by. Okay, a little bit of practice and then those won't seem so hard. Okay, on to the next page. When I find it, here we go. Okay, petrol costs £1.12 per litre. If there are 4.5 litres in a gallon, what would the cost of a gallon of petrol be? So 4.5 litres in a gallon, and it costs 1.12 per litre. Yeah. Okay, so we have, if I write pounds to litres, hang on, I shouldn't write it over there because it will be covered by my camera for some of you. So pounds to litres, 1.12 to 1 litre. And what do I need to put in the litres column on my second row? I think, Tari, you've got the right idea, but what do I need to put there? There's a simpler way of doing that, I think. It's going to be 4.5. So if I find the cost of 4.5 litres, that will be the cost of a gallon. So to get from 1 to 4.5, that's times by 4.5. So times the other side by 4.5. Now, Tari has just suggested we times by 4, halve it, and then add that on. You can do, or you can just do the multiplication. Might be quicker. Just do 112 times 45 and then add in your decimal points afterwards. Just give you a second to do that. Let me know when you've done that multiplication. Just send me a private message. Okay, good. So when you multiply those two numbers, you get 5,040, but we had 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point in the original question. So I put 1, 2, 3 numbers behind the decimal point. That's in pounds. So the final answer is £5 and 4 pence. You might want to do just a little sense check at the end of that, perhaps at the end of the test, to make sure that that seems logical given the question. Okay, let's go on to number 12. So a rectangle has an area of 70 centimetres and a perimeter of 38 centimetres. What is the length of the shortest side of the rectangle? Now, very quickly, how do we find the area of a rectangle? Yep, length times width. And then how do we find the perimeter of a rectangle? Yeah, so we find the perimeter by doing the length, add the length, and the width, add the width. So if I do, hang on, let me move this down so you can all see it without the camera in the way. So if I did the length times the width, that would need to equal 70 in this case. What if I just added the length and the width? What would that equal? And be careful when you answer this. Have another look at that, Olivia. I think you've got the right idea, but maybe you did your calculation wrong. Or maybe you're answering a different question to the one I asked. Yes, so if I just add the length and the width, then I would have 19. So I halve the perimeter because the perimeter has 2 lengths and 2 widths added, and I just want the sum of 1 length and 1 width. So the length and the width have to multiply to 70, but they have to add to 19. So now we'll do a bit of trial and error. Can you come up with some numbers that add to 19 and multiply to 70? Just give you a second to think about it. Yeah, so bonds to 19. Some of them you can rule out pretty quickly, like 10 and 9, 11 and 8. Yeah, good, we're starting to get a few answers now. So the answer would be 14 and 5 that go in there. And now let's just quickly reread the question so we make sure that we answered, that we met the criteria. So what is the length of the shortest side of the rectangle? So the answer I will give would be 5. Make sure you don't put 14 in there just by accident. And also, I just quickly check the units of measurement there. The answer they want is in centimeters, so I don't have to convert it into meters or anything like that. Okay, number 13. So if 3/7 of a number is 18, what is 5/6 of the same number? So I would like to draw a number machine to figure out the first part, and then we'll worry about the 5/6 part later on. So what would be my first step in my number machine? So if I find 3/7 of a number, so think about what you do first when you find 3/7 of a number. So the first thing you do when you find 3/7 is you divide by 7. Hang on, I should start with a box at the front. So you have your number, you divide by 7, and then you times by 3. And then they're telling you you get 18. So you're going to do the opposite of that. So working backwards, do the opposite of times by 3, which is divide by 3, and then do the opposite of divide by 7, which is times by 7. What do you get? Yes, so it is called the inverse, yeah. So the inverse operation, we're going to go backwards doing the inverse operations. So 18 divided by 3, 6. 6 times by 7 is 42. So the original number was 42. Now we need to think about the second part, which was what is 5/6 of the same number? Now I bet you that some of the kids in this exam wrote 42 as their final answer and forgot to do the second part, so don't be that kid. Yeah, so 42 divided by 6 is 7, times by the numerator 5, which gives you 35. So our final answer is 35. Okay, the next question, we're going to need some more room because we're going to need to do some trial and error for this. Okay, get ready because it's a long-winded one. So Amna takes a test with 50 questions. 4 marks are given for each correct answer, but 1 mark is taken off for each question she gets wrong. If Amna scores 168 in the test and doesn't attempt 3 questions at all, how many questions did she answer correctly? Note, there is no penalty for not attempting a question in this test that Amna takes. So hold off on your answers there, because I don't think you can have worked this out as quickly as you claim. And actually, I'm getting some wrong answers through. So hold up. So she didn't attempt 3 questions, which means she attempted 47 questions. And she didn't lose any marks for not attempting those questions. So if she got all of the answers right, what would be her score? If she got all of the questions she did right, what would be her score? Remember, she gets 4 marks for every correct answer. Some of you are giving me the answer 200. Remember, she didn't attempt 3 of the questions. So you would need to do 47 times 4, which, yeah, I think you're right, Angelina. So 47 times 4, 188 marks. But the question says she got 168. So we know that's too high, but maybe it's not way off. Now, the other thing we could work out is, relatively easily, is what if she got 40 questions right? Just trying to get an idea of what our number is in between. So what if she got 40 right? That means she got how many wrong? If you got 40 right, how many did she get wrong? Not 10? 7, yep. Remember, she's not penalized for the ones that she didn't answer. So the wrong ones are only 7. Okay, so 40 right, she would get 40 times 4 marks for those, 160, and then she'd lose 1 mark for each of the wrong ones. So she'd get 160 minus 7. Now, I can work that out, it's 153, but we already know 160 is going to be too low. But it gives us some idea. So she got somewhere between 40 and 47 questions right. Now, could you try and try out some other numbers between that? So I will, for those of you that have got it, you can start working it out, and I'll go over it in case you're confused. So the question said she gets 4 marks for each correct answer, but 1 mark is taken off for each question she gets wrong. She didn't attempt 3 of the questions, but she doesn't lose any marks for not attempting those questions. So basically, she only did 47 questions. Those are the only ones that count in this question. So if she attempted 47 questions, if she got 40 right, she'd get 4 marks for each one of those right answers. But if she got 7 wrong, she'd lose 1 mark for each of the wrong answers. So for getting 40 right, she'd get 60 marks. For getting 7 wrong, she'd lose 7 marks. So all in all, she'd get 153 there. Now, a few of you are giving me 145 as the, 45 as the answer. Let's try that. So if she got 45 questions right, how many did she get wrong? 2. Okay. And how many marks does she get for answering 45 correctly? So she gets 4 marks for every correct answer. So she gets 45 times 4 marks, which is not 170, it's 180. So for the right answers, she gets 180 marks. But then for the 2 wrong answers, she loses 2 marks. So what do we get there? How many marks does she end up with? If we work out the 45, she gets, yeah, good, thanks, Sri. She gets 178, but we want 168. So it's not right, I'm afraid. Emily, I'm having to scan that explanation, but from what I've read, I don't think that's right. So just watch up here. Okay, so someone has, I'll try out some of the answers. Someone's going to be 35. 35 is going to be too low because remember, if she got 40 right, she got 153. So 35, she'll have even fewer marks and will be even further away from 168. So let's try, what was it that someone said? Let's try 41, just so you can see how this works. So she got 41 right. She only attempted 47 questions. So that means she got 6 wrong answers down. If you got 41 right, you get 41 times 4 marks, which is 164. But you lose 6 marks for getting the 6 wrong. So you do -6, and that's 158. Not quite right. And then a few of you have given me the answer 43. 43 right, which means you get how many wrong? Get 4 wrong. So 43 times 4, she'd get 172 marks. And then she'd lose 4 marks because she got 4 wrong, and you get 168. I think some of you are confused as to like why she only gets this many wrong. It's because she didn't answer 3 of the questions. You have to remember that bit. And she didn't lose anything by not answering those questions, so we just ignore them. We pretend that they weren't in the test, and we act like the test was only out of 47. Okay, so final answer there is 43 right answers, 4 wrong. And what was the question? How many questions did Amna answer correctly? So our answer would be the 43 in that case. That was hard work. That is a question, even though it's not right at the end, it's a tricky one and it requires trial and error. So that's a question that I would maybe skip, or you could like take a guess and then come back to it. But you can skip it so that you have more time to do the ones where you can have a proper strategy and you know that you'll get to the right answer. Okay, number 15, I think I've got this on the screen. Yep, here we go. Okay, 5 friends raise £400 for their favourite charity. Alan collects £74 and Bilal raises £86. Chloe collects twice as much as David, who raises 3 times as much as Emily. How much did Chloe collect? Okay, yes, so we can use ratio, a couple of you have suggested. So Chloe collects twice as much as David, who raises 3 times as much as Emily. We're going to use ratio for that part, but we need to do something else first. Can someone suggest what that first step might be? Anyone? So for ratio, we can figure out, okay, someone's giving me some idea. Just make sure you've got your numbers in the right order when you're sending me that. So the ratio part we can use for Chloe, David, and Emily, but we don't know how much their amounts add up to yet. What we need to do first is subtract 74 and 86 from 400 to figure out what the other amounts add up to. So can you do 400, or actually do 74 plus 86, and then take that from 400 and let me know what you get. Okay. Yeah, so you would get 240. So Chloe's amount and David's amount and Emily's amount adds up to 240, and now I'm going to use that for my ratio. So C to D to E. Now who collects the least here? Just give me the first letter of their name in the chat. Chloe collects twice as much as David, who raises 3 times as much as Emily. Emily has the least. So on that basis, I'm going to put a 1 in the Emily column, and then I'll work out the other amounts for the ratio from that. So it says David raises 3 times as much as Emily, so I put a 3 in the David column. And then Chloe collects twice as much as David. So twice as much as David, so we do 3 times 2 and we get 6, yep. And then we know their amounts add up to 240. So right now this row adds up to 10, but I want it to add up to 240 pounds. So how do I get from 10 to 240? I times by 24, and that means I times everything in each column by 24. So there's 6 times 24, 3 times 24, and 1 times 24. And the question asks how much Chloe collected. So do you want to give me that value? Emily would be 24, 72, and yeah, 144 goes in the Chloe column. So Chloe collected £144. Good, I think lots of you got that, well done. 144. Okay. If 1 cake and 2 biscuits provide 450 calories, and 2 cakes and 3 biscuits provide 800 calories, how many calories are provided by 1 biscuit? We've had questions like this in every one of these papers, so hopefully you're getting quite confident with them. First thing I need to do, where do we start with this? What do you think? Someone tell me in the chat where we would start. No, we can't divide by 3. We can't divide 450 by 3 because that would assume that all of the items are worth the same number of calories. Whereas what's more likely is that the cake and the biscuits are worth different amounts. So we can't just divide. We have to start by writing equations. We've done that every week. So 1 cake and 2 biscuits. So I'll put cake plus 2b is 450. And then 2 cakes and 3 biscuits make 800. How many calories are provided by 1 biscuit? Does anyone remember what we do at this point? I'm not going to subtract one from the other yet. I'll show you actually what happens when we subtract one from the other. What's 2 cakes minus 1 cake? 2 cakes minus 1 cake is a cake. 3 biscuits minus 2 biscuits is a biscuit. 800 minus 450 is 350. So if I subtract, I get how much 1 cake and 1 biscuit add up to, although I don't actually get my answer because I still don't know how much 1 biscuit is worth. So let's do it another way. There is, by the way, a way of finding out the answer using that equation that we just got, but I'm not sure it's any quicker than our usual method, so I'll revert to that. Okay, so my problem here is that I have different numbers of cakes and biscuits in each equation. I'll solve that by timesing the top equation by 2. So then I will have, let me change colors, I'll have 2c plus 4b equals 900. So there I've just multiplied everything by 2. And then in the second equation, that stays the same. So I have 2c plus 3b equals 800. Now if I subtract one from the other, what will I get? I'll get 100 on this side. And what about on the left? What have I found? What is 100 equal to? 2c take away 2c, it's gone. 4b take away 3b, good, gives us 1 biscuit. So 1 biscuit equals 100 calories. And there you go, there's our answer. So we had to get the equations to the point where either the number of cakes or the number of biscuits was the same, and then we could subtract, and then we just got the calories in 1 biscuit. Okay. So our answer to that was 100. Now 17. This is a tricky one. We've done a few of these in class, and I'm actually going to put in the comments on the YouTube video a question similar to this so you can get some more practice. So we've done these in class, and there is a very similar question in one of the bond books. So you may have seen this before, or something similar anyway. So in a bag of money to take to the bank, I have only 5p, 10p, and 20p coins. I have twice as many 20p coins as 10p coins, and half as many 5p coins as 10p coins. If the bag contains £15.75, how many 20p coins are there? Right, so because we've got twice as many of one thing and half as many as the other, when we have those, that kind of wording, what method do we use? Twice as many and half as many, we've already used it this lesson. Yeah, good, so we use ratio when we have something like that. However, if I went ahead, let's say I have 5p, 10p, 20p. I'm just going to put some random numbers here. This would be the number of coins I have, whereas this, £15.75, is the amount that I have. So my ratio, instead of having the number of coins, is going to need to have the total value of those coins in order to be doable. So bear with me, I will explain that in more depth. So let's go back to the wording of the question. So I have twice as many 20p coins as 10p coins, and half as many 5p coins as 10p coins. Which one do I have the lowest amount of? 5p, 10p, or 20p? Which do I have the least of? Sorry, I shouldn't have said lowest amount, I should say the lowest number. 5p is what I have the least of. So remember before, when we decided that Emily had the least, we put a 1 in the Emily column. What I'm going to do is just have 1 5p. Okay, so imagine that's a 5p. I know it's beautifully drawn. So we have half as many 5p coins as 10p coins. So if I have 1 5p coin, how many 10p coins do I have? I have 1 5p coin, how many 10p coins? Yep, I've got 2 10p coins. So then I have half as many 5p coins as 10p coins. So we're fine there. And then I have twice as many 20p coins as 10p coins. Twice as many 20p coins as 10p coins. So how many 20p coins do I have? Yes, Emily. I think, Emily, you were prepared for that question. You're ready to give your answer. So we must have, if we have 2 10p coins, I must have 4 20p coins. You don't have to draw this out in the exam, by the way, though you can if it helps you. But I'm just drawing it to help you to understand in this case. So there we go. I'll just reread the question to make sure that what we've done fits. So I have twice as many 20p coins as 10p coins. Yep. And half as many 5p coins as 10p coins. Yep, that's fine too. Now remember what I said about the ratio. We want to put in the values, not the number of coins. So what do I put in the 5p column? What's the value of my 5p's? This is a really easy question, by the way. Yeah, just 5. It wasn't a trick. It was just what we have there. Okay, so I had 5p in coins. What was the value of my 10p coins? So look at the bottom of the screen. What is the value of my 10p coins? Yep, good, Annabelle. So 20. And then finally, what is the value of the 20p coins that I have? 80p. Good, Emily. So now I have a ratio with the values of the coins, which means I can put the £15.75 in and everything will be okay. So the top row adds up to, well, it's £1.05. Let's write it as 105 because it might be easier. And then what about the bottom row? So I put equals what? On that second row, that equals the number from the question, the total from the question. So 1575. Okay, so now as usual with ratio, you'll have to figure out what times 105 gives you 1,575. Estimate by rounding. So £1 5 pence is practically a pound, and then this is 15 pounds and some pence. What would you times a pound by to get to 15 pounds? Times it by 15. So I would try multiplying 105 by 15 first. But yeah, it's supposed to save some time. So that is times 15. So now you're going to multiply, well, you can multiply everything by 15 and complete the ratio. If you wanted to save yourself some time in an exam, you could do just the 80 times the 15. And then if you had the time at the end of the exam, you could come in and fill in the rest and just double check that you were accurate. So 80 times 15 gives us 1,200. And remember, that's in pence. All of these values were in pence. So 1,200 pence is equal to how many pounds? 1,200 pence is equal to how many pounds? 12 pounds. Yeah, make sure your pound sign goes before the money, before the numbers, not after. Okay, so we have 12 pounds in 20p coins. So, have I got my answer? Oh, sorry, Siri thought I was talking to her. I don't know if you can hear. Okay.
Siri here. Let me know if I can.
Okay, Siri's gone. Sorry about that. So, I have 12 pounds. Is that my final answer? Siri as in like the computer talking to you. No, it is not my final answer. So be careful, because after you've done all of that work, you probably think, great, I can stop and move on to the next question. You can't, I'm afraid. The question asks, how many 20p coins are there? Not how much do you have in 20p coins. So you need to figure out how many 20p coins are in 12 pounds. How many 20p coins are in £1? 5. So in 12 pounds, there will be how many 20p coins? In each pound, there are 5. So you'll have 12 times 5 will give you the number of 20p coins in 12 pounds. You could also, by the way, if you weren't too confident doing that, just do 1,200 divided by 20. Sorry. Cancel off the zeros, and then you get 60 that way as well. Okay, so we have 60 20p coins in 12 pounds that make up this £15.75. So if you did have time to check your answers at the end of the paper, then I would recommend figuring out how much you have in 5p and 10p coins, and then making sure that adds up to £15.75. And then you can be reasonably sure that you've done things correctly. Okay, good. Number 18. We're getting through this quite quickly today. When I find number 18, we will. Okay. So, in how many different ways can the letters in math be, or yeah, the letters M-A-T-H, I should say, be placed in a line if the T is always first and the A is never last? Why don't you try that on paper? Remember to try and have some sort of system so you're not just like randomly jumbling them up, because that's how you end up with duplicate answers. Give it a go. Okay, so we can have the H last. There are two ways of getting the H in the last position, when you have MA and when you have AM. And then the M is also allowed to be last. Yeah, so getting some right answers from you privately here, good. So if I put the N last, then I can have HA in the middle, and I can swap those around and have AH in the middle. Do I have any other options? Nope. No, I don't. Any other options would either have A last, which we're not allowed, or they would repeat the ones that we've already got. So 4 is how many different ways that you can list them. Nice and easy one for number 18 this week. Question 19, how many numbers between 300 and 500 contain at least one 4 in their digits? So we've got the numbers in the 300s and we've got the numbers in the 400s to count. So let's do the 300 first, because that's the trickier one. Now, a lot of people were saying 200 to me in the chat. It's not 200 because not all of the numbers between 300 and 500 will include a 4. So we do actually have to do some working out. So before you get too ahead of yourself, let's start with some sort of system. If we start with 304 would be a good place to start. And then what would be our next one that has a 4 in it? Yeah, we'd get 314. 324, you can see where this is going. And so how many of those numbers would we have up to 400? So 304, 314, 324, on it goes. And then we would get to 394, and there are 10 numbers like that. Now, the only other place that we will have numbers with 4s in them in the 300 would be the 340s. So if I have 340, 341, 342, and so on, there are 10 of those numbers. However, remember 344 will have been counted under these numbers. So 344 we will exclude. So instead of 10, we have 9 numbers. And those are all of the numbers in the 300s that have 1 4 in their digits. So we'll just come back to those amounts at the end. Now let's think about the 400s quickly. So how many numbers in the 400s have at least 1 4 in their digits? So all of them have at least 1 4. Now there are 100 of those numbers. Don't just think that it's 99 because you've got 401, 402. Don't forget that 400 itself needs to be counted. So 400 itself, 401, yada, yada, yada. And we have 100 of those numbers. So we've covered all of the numbers between 300 and 500 that have a 4 in them. So all we need to do now is to add those up. So what do we get? Yeah, we get 119. So there are 119 numbers between 300 and 500 that contain at least 1 4 in their digits. Number 20. So if the rules about what order to do arithmetic operations do not apply for this last question on the paper, then 2 plus 4 times 3 could be 2 plus 12 equals 14, or it could be 6 times 3. Yeah, so you either do this bit first and then you times by 3, or you do this bit first and then you add the 2 on. So we're not using BODMAS for any of this. So they're doing us a favor and telling us that there are 5 different ways, 5 different answers for working out this, when we work out this one. So, and it says, depending on the order you use for the operations, which answer would be in the middle if the answers were placed in descending order from largest to smallest? Which answer would be in the middle if the answers were placed in descending order from largest to smallest? So can you start trying to work out some ways that we can do this in a different orders? Now, just one thing before you start. Remember up here, you have to keep the numbers in order. So you can't do like here, they didn't just do like 2 times 3 and then add the 4. So you can't skip a number, but you can start anywhere you like. So you could start by doing the 4 minus the 2 and then work backwards, or whatever you like in that respect. So start working out the different ways that you can figure that out. You should get 5 different answers. Okay, so someone's got 42. Let me see from my notes how we did 42. How we got to 42. Hang on. Okay, so you get to 42 if you just kind of do them in order. So you do 14, hang on, 14 times 3 is 11. And then 11 times 4, which is 44. And then you do 44 minus 2 and you get 42. So that's one of our answers. Someone's got 22. Yes, so you can get 22 by doing 14 times 3, 4 times 2, 4 minus 2, and then timesing those two numbers together. So you get 11 times 2, and you get 22. 36, I don't think we can get 36. So can it go into negative numbers? I'm not sure you can get a negative number from this. I think in theory you could. It didn't say that they have to be positive numbers. But I don't think you can actually get that using these numbers. 0, yeah. So we can get 0 if we do 3 times 2, 3 times 2, it's 12. And then you do 12 minus 2 is 10. And then you do 14 minus 10. No, sorry, that's a different one. We just got 4, sorry. We can get 0. There's my 0 one. Can you let me, I can't find my notes on how we get 0, but I know you can. Can you tell me what you did for that one? Oh, I see what you did, thank you. So if we do 3 times 4 is 12, 14 minus 12 is 2, and then we do 2 minus 2 and we get 0. Thanks, and then there's one more. Has anyone given me that answer? No, there's one more way to do it. Try starting at the end. Okay, if we start with 4 minus 2, that gives us 2. And then we're working backwards. We do 2 times 3 is 6. And then you do the 14 minus the 6 and you get 8, yeah. Okay, so those are our 5 numbers. And it says put them in descending order, although it doesn't actually matter because it's in the middle, but yeah. So 42, 22, 8, 4, and 0. And what's our middle number? 8. Good. So that last one, it's a lot easier than the usual number 20s. So our last one is 8. It was easier because they told us that you only get 5 different answers, so we knew when we could stop. All right, guys, that's the end of today's video, or today's session, if you're doing it live. So I will put some practice questions for this underneath the YouTube video as well, if you want to have another look at some of them. Or if anything was a little bit confusing, then you can always go back and watch that part of the recording. I will try and get the recording up tonight. All right, I'll say goodbye to those of you watching the video at home. Thanks for watching.